Congressman Bob Good has represented Virginia's 5th Congressional District in the 118th U.S. Congress since January 2021. He's a member of the House Freedom Caucus, and he's here with us today with a special message for you. Please welcome Congressman Good.
Well, good morning, almost good afternoon. Thank you for being here for the purpose that is the greatest cause that we can gather together, the greatest political issue, the greatest cultural issue, the issue of life. Thank you for being the pro-life generation. I can't tell you how exciting it is to see so many young people, college students, high school students, standing up again for the most important issue of our time. I grew up during the time of the Roe v. Wade decision when I first started to cut my political teeth just as a little kid and to get involved in issues and to follow issues. It was shortly after Roe v. Wade. And Roe v. Wade was the only decision in the history of our country that literally cost 60 million lives. Literally 60 million lives. There was no more momentous, monumental decision than a year and a half ago, the Dobbs decision, that finally, mercifully overturned that heinous decision that was Roe v. Wade. And it said that there is no longer a constitutional right to an abortion, but instead the people's representatives, your representatives, now had the responsibility to legislate or to make the laws as it applies to abortion. How many have heard, by the way, since the Dobbs decision a year and a half ago, that it was turned back to the states? How many have heard that? You heard it was turned back to the states. You know, that's only partially true. And some of that is trumpeted by those at the federal level who no longer want the responsibility now that the Supreme Court has given it to the people's representatives, which includes the state legislatures, but it also includes the federal legislatures. And I have been concerned. Now, this is not political so much, the event. You are trying to change hearts and minds and stand up and be an influence in your circles of influence. But I'm in the political arena. And I call it the Great Departure. All of a sudden, it got really quiet in many political circles, many legislatures on the issue of life once the responsibility came to us. And I felt somewhat lonely and somewhat quiet in Washington, D.C., where we don't talk about this issue politically as much as we used to. I was a co-sponsor of the Life at Conception Act in 2022 and in 2023, during the time when the Dobbs decision came out. Because I would submit that we should not be in the business of negotiating the timeline of abortion, but we ought to stand up for life from conception unashamedly, unapologetically. Both at the federal level and where we can at the state level, and depending on what state you're in, obviously it impacts the possibilities and the probabilities to that effect. But there is no more important cause. As slavery was the stain on our nation's history in the 1700s and the 1800s, so is abortion in the 1900s and the 2000s. And one day, may we look back with the same contempt and disdain at those who supported abortion like we do at those who supported slavery, because it is the ultimate issue. And there's no issue more important for us to come together and to march. My wife Tracy and I have participated in many marches locally in Virginia, as well as here in Washington, D.C. It was a privilege to interact with many of you yesterday, weathering the storm, literally, the political storm, as well as the physical storm yesterday. But I want you to know that I'm a champion for life from conception. My office is working hard, and I can't say much about this yet until we get it out, but to craft legislation that finds that sweet spot within the Constitution and satisfies my recently becoming hyper-federalist fellow legislators on what is the appropriate federal role, what can we utilize in the federal law to attack abortion on the federal level. Because we must do everything we can to protect innocent, precious life, unashamedly and unapologetically so. And we all have a role to play. We all have a role to play. And you as citizens, as voters, as constituents, you need to hold your representatives accountable. Because there's pro-life and then there's pro-life, right? We all know that's true. There's pro-life and then there's pro-life. And so while it's important to do what we did this week, and I was signed on to the bill that we passed that said, hey, on the college campuses, schools that receive federal money have to inform students about what their rights are as a pregnant student on a college campus, what the resources are and support that is available to them to help them carry a baby to term, to help them understand that they have that option with support. That's important to pass bills like that, but it's even more important to pass bills that frankly restrict and ban abortion because it is a heinous practice that ought to be outlawed. And what does it say about a culture? What does it say about a culture that we literally kill the most innocent, the most vulnerable, the most precious life in our communities, in our culture? What does it say about us? So may we be unashamedly, unapologetically pro-life from conception. May we work and fight to elect people who hold that view. May we work and fight to influence those who represent us to be strong and uncompromising on life. Thank you so much for being here today. God bless you.